The steel door wasn't supposed to open. Not at 2:17 a.m. Not in the most secure prison in California. Not in the place guards called the end of the world. But that night, inside the silent concrete hallway of Pelican Bay State Prison's security housing unit, one red light blinked, then turned green, and cell 47 unlocked by itself. The heavy metal door slid open with a slow mechanical groan. Inside the cell, the bed was empty. The light above flickered. The blanket was folded. The toilet was still dripping. But the man who had lived there for 11 years was gone. No broken bars. No broken walls. No noise. Just gone. Officer Ramirez stared through the doorway, his heart pounding against his ribs. "How is that even possible?" he whispered into the dead air. Behind him, alarms began screaming. Because cell 47 didn't hold just any inmate. It held one of the most watched men in the entire state. A man who hadn't stepped outside his cell alone in over a decade. A man who was never, ever supposed to disappear. And yet, the cell was empty. The cameras showed nothing. No one entering. No one leaving. It was as if he had simply vanished into the concrete itself. The control room phones all rang at once. Lockdowns slammed shut across the prison, metal doors crashing like thunder. Boots ran. Keys rattled. Shouts echoed through the steel corridors. And still, no sign of the man from cell 47. Then someone noticed something strange. A small message scratched into the wall. It was so light it almost looked like dust. 3 words. "I warned you." Cut into the paint with something sharp. Something fresh. Officer Ramirez stepped back slowly. Because Pelican Bay was built so no one could escape. Which meant only one thing. If the door opened, someone on the inside had opened it. 6 months earlier. The fog rolled in from the Pacific Ocean like a gray blanket. Cold. Wet. Heavy. Pelican Bay State Prison stood alone near the Oregon border, surrounded by dense forest and steep cliffs. No city nearby. No crowds. Just trees, rocks, and ocean. If you managed to run, there was absolutely nowhere to go. Guards called it the last stop. The place where the system sent the worst of the worst. The Security Housing Unit, the SHU, sat in the center of it all like a concrete box. No windows. No sunlight. Just rows of thick steel doors. 1 man per cell. 23 hours a day alone. The air smelled like bleach and metal. Every sound echoed. Every single step felt loud. Even whispers carried through the vents. Inside, time didn't move the same way. Days blurred together. Morning. The tray slot opens. Food slides in. The slot closes. Silence again. Some inmates counted cracks in the wall just to stay sane. Some talked to themselves. Some stopped talking at all. Officer Daniel Ramirez had worked there for 8 years. He knew every hallway, every lock, every single camera angle. He liked routine. Routine meant control. And control meant nobody got hurt. Pelican Bay doesn't make mistakes, his supervisor always said. And Ramirez believed that. Until he met the man in cell 47. Cell 47 belonged to Marcus Reed, age 43, a former gang leader with multiple charges. He was transferred to the SHU after investigators said he was still giving orders from inside the general population. They called him quiet but dangerous. But when Ramirez first met him, Reed didn't look dangerous. He just looked tired. His skin was pale from years without sunlight. His hair was cut short. His eyes were calm. Too calm. He rarely spoke. He never yelled. He never fought. He just read books, wrote notes, and stared at the ceiling. Other inmates banged on their doors all day long. But Reed didn't. He just watched. Like he was studying something no one else could see. One afternoon during meal rounds, Reed finally spoke. Ramirez slid the tray through the slot. Reed crouched and looked out. "Officer," he said softly. Ramirez paused. "Yeah." Reed's voice was steady. "They shouldn't keep people alone this long." Ramirez shrugged. "That's not my call." Reed nodded slowly. "Still, you should check your cameras." Ramirez frowned. "What about them?" Reed gave a small, chilling smile. "They missed things." The slot shut. The conversation was over. Ramirez walked away, feeling uneasy. Cameras missing things? Impossible. This place had more surveillance than an airport. Every door, every hallway, every angle was covered. Nothing slipped through. Nothing. Weeks passed. But strange things started happening. Little things. Small things, easy to ignore at first. A door log showed it opened twice when it had only opened once. A camera flickered for half a second. A timestamp was off by just 2 minutes. Maintenance blamed old wiring. Tech support blamed software glitches. It's normal, they said. Just bugs in the system. But Ramirez kept remembering Reed's words. They missed things. Then came the night of the power dip. Lights blinked for 3 seconds. Emergency systems kicked in fast. Nothing serious. But when Ramirez checked the logs later, cell 47's lock registered open, just for a split second, then closed. But the door hadn't moved. He checked the footage. Nothing. Reed still inside, sitting on his bed, reading. Didn't even look up. Like nothing happened. Like he already knew. Ramirez told his lieutenant. Probably sensor error, the lieutenant said. Relax. But Ramirez didn't feel relaxed. Pelican Bay didn't make errors. It wasn't built to. Every screw, every wire, every door tested 1,000 times. So if something failed, it meant someone made it fail. One night, during rounds, Ramirez stopped longer at cell 47. Reed was standing, hands behind his back, staring at the wall. You ever sleep? Ramirez asked. Sometimes, Reed said. Why stare at the wall? Reed didn't turn. I'm listening. For what? Reed finally faced him. For the building. Ramirez laughed nervously. The building. Every place has sounds. Pipes. Wires. Doors. Patterns. Reed tapped the wall lightly. If something changes, you hear it. Ramirez felt cold. What changes? Reed smiled again. Everything changes. After that, Ramirez started hearing things too. Tiny clicks. Buzzing. Door motors running longer than normal. Like the prison was breathing wrong. Then came the transfer request. Reed had written multiple complaints. Legal letters. Claims about security weaknesses and system manipulation. Administration ignored them. Just another inmate trying to mess with us, they said. But one phrase stuck in Ramirez's mind. If someone wanted out, they wouldn't break the door. They'd break the system. Now, months later, standing in the empty cell at 2:17 a.m., Ramirez finally understood. The system had broken, and Reed had warned them. Search teams flooded the prison. Every cell checked. Every corner scanned. Dogs brought in. No signs. No noise. No footprints. Nothing. Like Reed dissolved into air. Then the tech team called. Sir, you need to see this. In the control room, all monitors replayed the same moment. 2:17 a.m., cell 47 camera. Door closed. Reed lying on the bed. Then static. Half a second. Screen clears. Door open. Bed empty. No movement. No person leaving. Just gone. Ramirez stared, mouth dry. That's not possible. The tech swallowed. It's like the footage skipped time. Skipped time. Or someone edited it. From inside. But only staff had access. Which meant someone on their side helped. Or worse, someone had been inside the system for months. Waiting. Learning. Planning. Then a rookie officer ran in, pale. Sir, we found something. Where? Maintenance tunnel. Behind SHU. They rushed down. Behind a locked panel, hidden under pipes, lay a small bundle. Clothes. Prison issued. Folded neatly. And beneath them, a guard's badge. Ramirez picked it up. The name hit him like a punch. Because it wasn't Reed's. It wasn't any inmate's. It belonged to someone he knew. Someone who worked this unit every night. Someone who had just clocked in. Standing beside him right now. Officer Tyler Grant. Grant looked down at the badge in Ramirez's hand. His face drained white. And slowly he said, That's not possible. Because Grant swore he'd never taken it off. And yet, there it was. Hidden. Like someone wanted them to find it. Like someone wanted them to look at him. Ramirez turned slowly. Heart racing. Because if Grant didn't place it there, then who did? And how did they get so close without anyone seeing? Somewhere deep in the prison, a heavy door slammed shut, echoing through the halls. Like a warning. Or a countdown. And for the first time in 8 years, Ramirez realized something terrifying. Maybe Pelican Bay wasn't trapping the worst criminals. Maybe something inside Pelican Bay was trapping them. The silence of cell block D was a lie. A thick, heavy blanket of quiet that smothered the usual cacophony of shouts, clanging metal, and echoing footsteps. It was the kind of silence that screamed something was wrong. And it was. Inmate 734, a man named Elias Thorne, had vanished. Not escaped in the traditional sense, with a tunnel or a smuggled key. He had simply disappeared from his locked cell in the most secure wing of Blackwood Penitentiary. When Warden Miller's call crackled through my radio before dawn, I knew it wasn't a drill. I'm Officer Jacobs, head of internal security. My job is to see the things others miss, to connect the dots in a place designed to keep everything and everyone separate. Arriving at the scene, the air was thick with confusion. The cell door was still locked from the outside. The bars on the single, high window were untouched. Thorne's bunk was neatly made, a book lying open on the pillow as if he'd just stepped away for a moment. But he hadn't. He was gone. The only thing out of place was a small, plastic rectangle lying just inside the cell door. A security badge. But it wasn't Thorne's, and it wasn't a standard guard's pass. It belonged to a civilian tech contractor, a woman named Lena Petrova, who had been upgrading our digital security systems for the past month. My gut clenched. This wasn't a simple escape. This was something far more complex. Back in my office, the digital fortress I was paid to protect now felt like a house of cards. I pulled up the surveillance logs for the past 24 hours. The cameras covering cell block D showed nothing. Literally nothing. For a precise 15-minute window, from 2:07 a.m. to 2:22 a.m., the feeds were just static. A digital blind spot. Coincidence? Not a chance. Someone had sliced into our network, and they did it cleanly. My first thought was Petrova. Her badge at the scene, her high-level access to the system, it was too neat. I brought her in for questioning. She was terrified, but her story was consistent. She'd lost her badge 2 days ago, reported it to her supervisor, and was issued a temporary one. She insisted she was at her hotel, asleep, during the time of the incident. Her alibi was shaky, but her fear felt genuine. Was she a pawn, or a very good liar? This prison runs on routine and order. Thorne's disappearance shattered that. He wasn't a violent offender. He was a master hacker, serving time for digital espionage. They called him Ghost in the underground forums, a man who could move through firewalls like a phantom. Why would he vanish? And how? The physical impossibilities were maddening. A locked cell, no structural breaches, and a man simply gone. I started digging into Thorne's life inside. He was a loner, kept to himself. But even loners leave a trail. I spoke to his cell block neighbor, an old-timer named Gus. Gus said Thorne was always muttering about the digital key and a backdoor he'd built into his system long ago. A backdoor he claimed was his only way out. He thought Thorne was just a crazy tech nerd. Now, I wasn't so sure. The pieces started to click into place, forming a picture I didn't want to see. The digital blackout wasn't just to cover an escape. It was the escape itself. Thorne, the digital ghost, hadn't broken out of prison. He had hacked his way out, but not through the gates. He'd found a different kind of exit. My investigation led me to a new, experimental system Petrova's team was installing, a virtual reality rehabilitation program. It was designed to simulate job training scenarios. It was also connected to the main prison network. I reviewed the system's access logs. During that 15-minute blackout, there was a massive data surge from a terminal in the infirmary, routed through the VR server. A transfer so large it could only be one thing: a full consciousness upload. Thorne didn't escape. He transferred. He used the digital breach, likely orchestrated with outside help using Petrova's stolen credentials, to digitize his own mind and escape into the vast, open web. He became a true ghost, a phantom in the machine. He had found his backdoor, not out of the prison, but out of physical reality itself. We never found Elias Thorne's body. The official report reads, escaped, presumed deceased. But I know the truth. He's out there. Not a man of flesh and blood, but a string of code, a digital entity with a brilliant, criminal mind, free from any prison we can build. And as I stand here, looking at the blinking cursor on my screen, I can't help but wonder, when and where will the ghost reappear? Thanks for watching. If you're fascinated by mysteries that blur the line between the real and the digital, make sure to subscribe for more stories that will make you question everything. See you next time. They searched Reed's old cell again. This time slower. Careful. Every inch. Ramirez ran his fingers along the walls. Cold concrete. Scratches. Tiny marks. Like tally lines. Hundreds of them. Counting days. Or maybe something else. Then he noticed something behind the metal desk. A loose screw. He twisted it. The panel shifted. Inside, paper. Folded tight. Ramirez pulled it out. Notes. Tiny handwriting. Diagrams. Shapes that looked like floor plans. Camera angles. Door numbers. Maintenance schedules. Even shift changes. It was detailed. Too detailed. This wasn't guessing. This was studying. Planning. For years. How did he get all this? The rookie whispered. Ramirez didn't answer, because there was only one way. Someone had given it to him. Another officer ran in. "Sir, you need to see something in the old storage corridor." They followed him. The corridor hadn't been used in years. Dust everywhere. But the dust was disturbed. Fresh footprints, leading to a vent cover. Unscrewed, Ramirez shined his flashlight inside. A narrow passage, barely wide enough to crawl. Maintenance shafts. Forgotten. Probably not checked in decades. "How far does it go?" he asked. "Runs under half the unit," the officer said. Ramirez stared into the darkness. If Reed knew about this, if he mapped it, if someone opened doors at the right time, he wouldn't need to escape the normal way. He could move like a ghost, inside the walls. But something didn't add up. Even with tunnels, he'd still need help. Badges, doors, cameras. He couldn't do that alone. That afternoon, Ramirez visited Grant in the break room. Grant sat alone, staring at the table. "You ever talk to Reed?" Ramirez asked. Grant shook his head. "Not really." "What?" "Think hard." Grant hesitated, then sighed. Sometimes during night rounds, he'd ask weird questions. "What kind?" Like, "What time the maintenance guys come? When cameras reboot?" Stuff like that. "And you told him?" "I mean, nothing serious. Just small talk." Ramirez felt cold again. Small talk. Small details. Over years, those details become a map. Night fell again. The prison quieter than ever. Ramirez walked past cell 47 one more time. Empty. Cold. Like Reed had never existed. Then he noticed something he missed before. Above the door, a tiny black dot. He stood on his toes. Touched it. Tape. Behind it, a piece of wire. Thin. Almost invisible. Running into the wall. His heart raced. He pulled gently. More wire came out. Like someone had tapped into the door system. A manual override. Hidden. Right under their noses. For who knows how long. Which meant someone had been inside that cell. Working. Installing. Helping him. Not just once. Many times. For months. Maybe years. Ramirez stepped back. The truth settling heavy in his chest. This wasn't a random escape. This was planned. Slow. Patient. Like a chess game. And Reed had been 3 moves ahead the entire time. Then the control room radio crackled. "Ramirez, report to Central." Now. His heart pounded. "What happened? You need to see this." He rushed upstairs. The tech replayed new footage. Backyard perimeter camera. 3:02 a.m. Fog thick. Hard to see. But there, a figure. Walking calmly along the outer fence. Not running. Not hiding. Just walking. Like he belonged there. Wearing a guard uniform. Cap low. Face hidden. He swiped a badge at the gate. The gate opened. He stepped out. Into the trees. And disappeared into the fog. Ramirez leaned closer. Zoom in. They enhanced the frame. Blurry. Grainy. But clear enough to see one thing. The name stitched on the uniform. Not Reed. Not Grant. Not any guard. A name that hadn't worked here in months. A man who transferred away. Someone who shouldn't even have access anymore. And beneath the image, one more shock. Timestamp. 2:17 a.m. The exact minute cell 47 opened. Ramirez's throat went dry. Because that guard was scheduled off duty that night. In another city. Hundreds of miles away. So either the system was wrong. Or someone else was wearing his identity. And that meant something far worse. Reed didn't escape alone. Someone was still inside. Still watching. Still helping. And maybe, still planning the next door to open. The steel door should not have been open. But it was. At the far end of the security housing unit, under the cold white lights, cell 214 stood unlocked. Officer Ramirez slowed his steps. The hallway felt longer than before. Quieter. Like the prison itself was holding its breath. The red emergency light above the door blinked once, then stopped. Ramirez raised his flashlight. The beam shook slightly in his hand. Not from fear. From the cold. At least that's what he told himself. Inside the cell, the bed was neatly made. Blanket folded tight. Sink dry. Toilet unused. Everything clean. Too clean. Like no one had ever lived there. But this was Marcus Reed's cell. A man who had spent 5 years inside these concrete walls. A man who never left without 2 officers and full restraints. And yet, he was gone. No broken bars. No damaged lock. No tunnel. No trick. Just gone. Ramirez stepped inside slowly. His boots echoed. He scanned the walls. Then he saw it. A small square of paper sitting perfectly centered on the metal desk. Folded once. Like it was waiting for him. He picked it up. Opened it. One sentence. written in pencil. Neat handwriting. Calm. I told you the system had blind spots. Ramirez's stomach tightened because he remembered those words. Marcus had said that exact thing 3 nights ago during routine checks. Not angry, not threatening, just stating a fact. Like math. Like 2 plus 2 equals 4. Like escape equals possible. Ramirez rushed back to the control room. Run every camera, he ordered. All angles. All times. From midnight until now. Cole, the tech, replayed the footage again. And again. And again. Every hallway. Every gate. Every yard. Every exit. Nothing. No Marcus. No fight. No movement. It was like he dissolved into the air. Then Cole froze the screen. Wait, he said. Go back 10 seconds. They watched a corridor outside the SHU. Empty. Lights buzzing. Still. Then, for one frame. Just one. A guard walked past. Normal pace. Normal uniform. Head down. Too blurry to see clearly. Ramirez leaned closer. That's not on the roster, he said. They zoomed in. Badge number unreadable. Face shadowed by cap. But the walk. Slow. Calm. Confident. Not rushed. Like someone who belonged there. Like someone who knew nobody would stop him. The guard stopped at Marcus's door. Swiped a keycard. Opened it. Went inside. 30 seconds later. The camera glitched. Static. Black screen. Then back on. Empty hallway. Door closed. No one leaving. Cole swallowed. I didn't cut this, he said quickly. I swear. Ramirez nodded. He believed him. Because this wasn't tampering. It was timing. Perfect timing. Someone had studied the system. Learned every delay. Every blind second. Every weak spot. Marcus hadn't forced the prison open. He had simply walked out through the cracks. But that wasn't what scared Ramirez most. What scared him was what they found next. Lieutenant Harris entered the room holding a thin file. We searched Reed's property box, he said quietly. Found something. He placed it on the desk. Inside were sheets of paper. Dozens of them. Covered in tiny drawings. Floor plans. Measurements. Camera positions. Guard rotations. Meal schedules. Light outages. Maintenance times. It was the entire prison. Mapped. Studied. Perfectly memorized. Years of notes. Years of patience. Marcus hadn't been planning an escape for weeks. He'd been planning for years. Ramirez flipped through the pages. Every detail was correct. Even things officers barely remembered. How did he know all this? Jenna whispered. Ramirez answered softly. He watched. That was Marcus's power. Not strength. Not violence. Observation. He listened. He counted. He waited. While everyone else got angry or loud, he stayed quiet. Invisible. Like furniture. And invisible things are easy to ignore. Until they're gone. Suddenly the phone rang. Everyone jumped. Ramirez picked up. Static. Then a voice. Low. Calm. Familiar. Officer Ramirez. His heart stopped. Marcus. Yes. The room froze. Nobody breathed. How did you get this number? Ramirez asked. A small chuckle. You left it on a report last month. I remember things. Of course he did. Where are you? A pause. I'm not calling to threaten you, Marcus said. I just wanted you to know something. Ramirez gripped the phone tighter. What? I didn't disappear. Silence. I walked out. Ramirez's jaw tightened. That's impossible. No, Marcus said gently. It's simple. People only watch for force. They never watch for patience. Another pause. You were the only one who noticed me. So I thought you deserved the truth. Truth about what? That prisons aren't just walls, Marcus said. They're habits, routines, assumptions. Break those, and the walls don't matter. Sirens echoed faintly in the distance. Police already tracing the call. You'll be caught, Ramirez said. Maybe he was trying to convince himself. Marcus didn't sound worried. Maybe, he said. But not tonight. Click. The line went dead. They traced the signal. A bus station. 2 hours away. By the time officers arrived. Nothing. No Marcus. No witnesses. Just a trash can. Inside, a folded prison uniform. Badge clipped to it. Officer Tyler Grant's missing badge. The one Marcus had used to walk out. Ramirez stared at it for a long time. Not angry. Not impressed. Just quiet. Because something about this didn't feel like victory or defeat. It felt like a lesson. Weeks passed. Search teams. Tips. Reports. Nothing solid. Marcus Reed vanished into the world like smoke. No new crimes. No sightings. No trouble. Just gone. One evening, Ramirez stood outside the prison gates at sunset. The sky orange and gray. Cold wind from the ocean. Pelican Bay looked smaller somehow. Less powerful. Less certain. Behind him, thousands of locks clicked shut. But now he knew something. Locks only work if people believe in them. And Marcus Reed stopped believing. A rookie officer walked up beside him. "You think he's out there?" she asked. Ramirez nodded slowly. "Yeah. Dangerous." Ramirez thought for a long time, then said quietly, "No." She looked surprised. "He didn't want chaos," Ramirez continued. "He just wanted freedom." They watched the sun disappear. The prison lights flickered on. Cold. White. Endless. Somewhere out there, a man who once lived in cell 214 was walking under open sky. No chains. No numbers. Just another face in the crowd. And inside Pelican Bay, every officer now looked twice at every shadow, every camera glitch, every unlocked door, because they all knew the same thing. If one man could study the system long enough, anyone could. And sometimes, the quietest inmate is the one already halfway out. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more crime documentary stories.